more now on the cyber attack on TalkTalk. Chief Executive Dido Harding says the company is working non-stop to find out who's behind the attack.
The criminals have hacked into our systems and downloaded a very significant amount of data. And so we spent the last 36 hours trawling through that to establish what has and hasn't been accessed. And because of the scale, so I am confident that a material number of our customers have been affected, which is why I'm taking the precaution of warning all of our customers. I don't know whether the data that has been stolen is encrypted or unencrypted, and I'm taking the worst case and assuming that it might have all been accessed effectively unencrypted. I can't confirm one way or the other. And again, I know this seems very ambiguous, but our decision was that we're better stating the worst case and warning customers now so that they can take precautions and we can help them take precautions than we are saying categorically it's all encrypted and don't worry about it. In this instance, this is a criminal act. As we've said, we've been contacted by people purporting to have committed the crime. And the awful truth is that cybercrime is the crime of our generation, of this era.
That's the Chief Executive of TalkTalk, Dido Harding. She's been answering many, many questions throughout the last 24 hours because there's so much concern, obviously, from those 4 million customers whose data is potentially at risk from the people who've carried out this hack. Well, we've had quite a lot of questions from people too. Thank you for those. And with us to try to answer a few of them is Professor Mark Skilton, expert in data protection at the University of Warwick and works with PA Consulting on digital strategy. Thank you for sidling into the studio so quietly. First of all, let's ask you this. If this data is now in the hands of people who shouldn't have it, other than try to take money from your bank account, what use is that information to them?
Well, we're living in the digital economy, which is really the value of personal data. It really represents you, your identity. And it's not only the fact that they can use your bank account details to go and open transactions and steal money from you, is that they can use your ID as a kind of masquerade. They can go and pretend that you're you and go and do other crimes. So the consequences are quite severe.
A lot of questions about how common these attacks really are. I mean, obviously the focus is on TalkTalk at the moment, but Teresa Brown and Happy Frog via Twitter ask a similar question. Which company could be next if you're with another provider? Could it happen to them?
Well, I think I'd like to make the distinction between denial of service attacks, which is where you can't actually use the service, and this is a data breach, is where someone breaks in and steals the information. They're quite different. But if you just look at the big ones, like Sony, which had data stolen, like Anthem, which had 80 million medical records stolen in the last 12 months, like JP Morgan in the last 2 years, which had 70 million bank account details. What's happening is that the data in companies now, your personal data, you trust to them, are becoming really large targets for criminals. So I think we need to realise that reality.
James in Newcastle asks, why was payment information stored in such a way that it could be accessed and it didn't appear to be encrypted? We don't know for sure. Dido Harding says she can't be sure how much of it was encrypted.
It depends on the type of cyber attack. I mean, if you're talking about malware, without getting into the technicalities of it, if you've got malware, then sometimes you just can't detect these things. And we don't know exactly how long this attack had been going on. It could have been going on for the last 2-3 weeks or longer. But if it's basically where they haven't followed procedures internally to encrypt your data, then that is a governance issue. Now, I must point out just very quickly that if you look at the history of TalkTalk, I mean, it used to be owned by Carphone Warehouse. I know they left that in 2010, but they were themselves hacked about 12 months or a few months ago and had 2.5 million records stolen themselves. So the question over my mind is, what sort of security disciplines do they have internally?
Paul, via Twitter, asks, if he pays his TalkTalk bill via card payment over the phone rather than online, is he still at risk?
Potentially, yes. I mean, I'm not saying everything's gone to the dogs, if you will. The question is, if they've stolen your identity, they may have taken your credit details as well. We just don't know the extent of the data that's been stolen. But if they have your personal identity, they know your email address, they know your login details, then they could then log in effectively and then get your bank account details. It doesn't necessarily mean that you're secure in using your credit card details. It depends. If they've stolen your identity, then that identity could be used for other things.
Lydney in Gloucestershire asks, are former customers potentially at risk if their data is still being stored in historical data?
Yeah.
How long do they keep data for?
Well, the legal around e-discovery is saying you need to have 12 to 24 months of data in case there is some kind of legal requirement to pull that data back. So yes, your archive data could also have been taken.
Shallow Mal asks, why can't the government strengthen the UK firewall and offer better protection to all of us?
Well, that's a good question, but I think we're living in a 24/7 economy, as we know. The number of threat points, as we call threat vectors, the experts say, is increasing. We have hundreds of mobile connections who walk around, Wi-Fi connections who have different apps and things. So the degree of exposure where you could be attacked could be quite large. The question is, back at the cloud center or back at the organisation that you've entrusted your data with, your data trust with them, have they followed due diligence? So if the bad guys or bad girls get in, have they actually then got firewalls in the enterprise? Now, the question around international standards or government standards or certification standards, today they're just guidelines. They're not mandated as legal requirements. They don't have to encrypt. It's entirely at their level of judgment, and that's the risk I think we have to consider.
But given that we have seen in America, chief executives have felt compelled to resign over data protection problems, companies are going to take this probably more seriously than even voluntary guidelines, aren't they?
Well, yes, you would think so, yes. And I think it's about a balance of investment. I mean, if you look at the top 5 or 6 board issues now, cybersecurity is right up there with number 2, number 3. But the question around, is it are you protected if you go to a large company or you go to a small company? The question is around how much money are they investing? Are they actually protecting themselves, or are they diverting that money to other things?
I'm not sure whether you'll be able to answer this question. It's more to do with sort of the nature of the contract that somebody might have with TalkTalk. But Alan asks, can TalkTalk customers now leave with no penalty to pay if they're still in contract because of this breach?
Yeah, it's about liability. It's always about liability. Who is responsible? You have to look at the terms and conditions. It's absolutely a great question to ask. I think you have to ask the question. I can't answer that. You have to look at the details.
Finally, how likely is it that these hackers will be caught?
Probably unlikely. I mean, it depends if they've done a good job. If they're professional, then it may be difficult to follow them through because of the number of nodes and connections they can get into the business. We just don't know.
Professor Mark Stilton from University of Warwick, thank you very much for answering all the questions, and thank you to everybody who sent some in.